everyone. I welcome all of you in the ninth webinar organized by Research Scholars Forum, IIT Bombay, on post-PhD career opportunity. So today the title of the talk is Post-PhD Career Plan, Industry or Academia, or what else. We have with us the speaker, Professor Monoranjan Shahu from Department of Environmental Science and Engineering, IIT Bombay. I'll start with a brief introduction of the speaker. Professor Monoranjan Shahu is an assistant professor at the Environmental Science and Engineering Department. He completed his MTech in Environmental Science and Engineering from IIT Bombay and received his MS and PhD from Washington University in St. Louis in Energy, Environmental and Chemical Engineering. He has done postdoctoral research from University of Illinois, USA. He has worked in R&D positions in chemical industries in multiple companies such as in MEMC Electronic Materials and SABIC in USA, and more than 6 years before returning to academia in IIT Bombay. So he has worked in Bhabha Atomic Research Center, India, as scientist before moving to USA for his PhD. So Professor Sahu has received multiple prestigious awards like McDonnell Academy Fellowship, Distinguished Dissertation Award by ANWMA, and Young Faculty Award IITB. So we invite Professor Sahu to start the presentation. Before we start, I once again request everyone to please mute your microphones and your videos. If you have any question, please address them in the chat box or raise your hand after the session. We will unmute you so that you can ask your question directly to the speaker. Sir, you can start now. Thank you for joining us once again.
Thank you. So what's your name?
Shruti.
So there is still some noise is coming, little bit background noise, right?
I think, sir, that was because my microphone is not muted. I will mute my microphone, and if everyone mutes their microphone, then the noise will go.
Okay, no problem, no problem. Okay, so should we start now then? So good afternoon, everyone. I think thank you for coming to this presentation and thank you for inviting me to talk. I always love to share my experience so that which will be helpful to the research forum, research scholars of IIT Bombay. And just wanted to mention, restate that I'm alum of IIT Bombay. I always very happy to share my skills, experience, and any tips I can help out so that you can get more successful in your career going ahead. Okay. So mostly today I'm going to talk about some of my experience in the US. I have spent 13 years and I have done my PhD postdoc and also spent several years in industrial R&D positions in big companies. So I'll share my experience and how to approach step by step so that you can be, if you want to go to US, even settle down in US. I know how to work in US. So I'll share all the tips so that you guys will be very, very prepared to go to US if you are. Okay. So the brief outline of my talk today, I'm going to talk briefly about some of the introduction. I will give about an idea about what are the opportunities after PhD, and then we'll discuss about why do you need a postdoc position, and secondly we'll discuss about the application process and what are the different approaches followed in the US. I'll talk about postdoc application process, what are the timeline, my personal experience. Then I'll talk about applications in industrial R&D, what is the steps followed, and what are the things really you should look into. And then finally, I'll talk about some of the challenges faced by students and family when they go to US. Okay. So again, this is based on all the presentation, all the knowledge shared are based on my views, based on my own experience in 13 years spending in the US, may subject to my own bias. So you should definitely talk to other faculties. You will give valuable information also. So, okay. So let me first start with what are the different kinds of opportunities after PhD. Sometimes people get confused about what kind of positions I'm eligible for, what type of positions I can apply, what are the opportunities outside the wall. Let me list out few of the things here. The first one is the research associate, basically, which is basically it comes in very, very different name, sometimes called postdoctoral research associate, postdoctoral fellowship, postdoctoral scholars, and many different names, but it is the same position, basically research associate position. Then second is industrial R&D positions. Lot of industries in the US, particularly, I cannot talk about Indian conditions, but in the US, I have spent a significant amount of time. So there are a lot of industrial R&D positions. They seek mostly the PhDs. Very, very important thing is in industrial R&D, they hire mostly PhDs. And then faculty job is another option. And then fourth is national laboratories and research centers. People generally in national laboratory, like let's say talk about Oak Ridge National Laboratory, Sandia National Laboratory, Argonne National Laboratory. There are several research laboratories in the US and also several research centers where you can be, look for options like scientists, researchers, staffs, etc. Many different positions. And some other career opportunities in terms of sometimes people go for research analysts, many consulting jobs, data scientists, even some people go for entrepreneurship. Based on their research output, based on if something comes out from their PhD research, sometimes people try to start the startup companies and things like that. So apart from these, there are many other cases, but these are the major career opportunities. And many people also try to change their career. So before doing all these, I think some of the important questions you all should ponder about. So what are my career goals? What I am really, for example, you are getting your PhD and you have spent 3, 4, 5 years. I don't know how many years you are. You have spent a significant amount of time. Now you have a good idea about, what you are doing. The few things you should really ask yourself: what are your career goals? What are your short-term and long-term goals? Short-term means next 3 to 5 years. Long-term means basically kind of 10 to 20 years down the line. What are the things you should do so that you'll be always happy about? Because it's very, very important. You need to really do the soul searching right now, because you have already spent some good time. Now you have a good idea about the real world. You should really think about, and you should ask yourself and really think, spend several days to think about what I'm really excited about. Even if you are getting a PhD, that's fine. There are thousands different job opportunities. So then also, what are the most compelling reasons why you want to do and what you want to do? Let's say you decided to go for postdoc. You should have a compelling reasons. You should ask yourself why I am going to do for postdoc. Many people don't have that answer. People just think about, okay, I'll just a postdoc position, I'll go. But that's not the right way, in my view. You should ask yourself why I am going to do a postdoc, how it is going to help my career, how it is going to help in my long-term objective, things like that. Then other things you look like to ask: when did you originally become interested in this field, and what have you learned about it and about yourself during this process? I understand the PhD is a very rigorous process. Now you have spent a quite amount of time, but here you need to understand that don't think that if you have done PhD means you have to be in that field. Not necessarily. PhD is a kind of training you got, how to solve a problem in the real world, how to approach systematically things. So don't be limited by thinking that you have done your PhD doesn't mean that you will just work in that area. You have got a good training. So you should now explore and think about, ask about yourself, what are the things really excite me? What are the things I should do so that I will be very, very happy to go to the job, whatever job I am going to do. Then next thing is, are you further stimulated your interest or reinforce your conviction that you are doing well suited to this field? This is the thing. Once you ask this question, you'll realize whether you are really interested in the current field, so that you can still go to that field again to do more research on that. Okay. So now, uh, so okay. So now, let's say after asking all these probing questions, I think this is the slide you should really think about it. Most of the people do not have any idea what they want to do, but they are just follow the, just like follow the all the people. Okay, people are doing the postdoc, I will go for postdoc. No, you should ask yourself whether postdoc position is suitable for you or not. Okay, so let's say you decide you go for postdoctoral position, and then after thinking all these, you decided, okay, whatever may be the reason, okay, now you found out, now I want to do for postdoc. So since this is a postdoctoral forum, I would like to, let's say decided, then if other questions to really consider, how might postdoctoral research affect my career plans? As I discussed earlier, you should have a solid short-term and long-term plan. How this postdoctoral research plan is fitting to your long-term goal or short-term goal. You need to ask that. And will a postdoctoral position enhance or narrow my employment prospects? Do I know exactly what discipline or research I want to pursue in my postdoctoral research? Okay, if you are doing a PhD in a certain research area, not necessarily you have to do postdoc in that area. You need to ask, what are the research area I should target? Because now you have a good understanding by doing your PhD that what are some of the areas I should explore more, and you are excited about research areas. So this is the time you can change the plan. You can go to another research area and explore things. And then few questions comes up, do I need to do right away? Or where will I choose to go? It's a lot of question people ask, when should I start my search? Do I need to right away? Do I to do something else? Or and then where to go? Whether to US, whether to Europe, whether to France, Japan, what else? And sometimes some questions comes up, how will I afford it if I go? Okay. So now, basically now, let's say you decided your postdoc. Let me clearly tell you what are some of the things about the postdoc. Typically in US, a fixed term of 1 to 3 years of research position as a postdoctoral research. So 1 year, basically when you join a faculty in a university, they generally give for 1 year as a contract. Then every year they try to assess your performance. If they are very happy, they will extend your terms. It can be extended up to 5 years. I have seen in my lab people have done postdoc for 5 years, and 3 years is basically some of the places like national labs. There will be, they have a contract for 3 years for research position. But again, these are the things you can do, leave at any time. Nobody is going to stop you if you get a good position. And some of the things are independent research positions, or just like fellowships. There will be sometimes fellowships you can apply and get the fellowship, and again choose the faculty advisor to work on things like that. And most of the things I think I have seen, most of the specific projects or to investigators, to specific faculty. Basically, several faculty will have their own project funding. Sometimes they hire the postdoc, so you will be assigned to the specific investigator. And again, I can say you applications are very time consuming. It's very daunting, and start preparing early. And each position is very competitive. Rejection is normal. Okay, so sometimes people get very frustrated. Hey, I have applied 100 positions, no response, no communications. That is usual, that is normal, nothing to be disheartened. This is a process, and you learn from all these rejections as well. Okay, so now coming to the application process. So how to search for postdoc openings? So where you get first the opening so that you can apply. So number one is basically lot of advertisements will come. Sometimes you will go to various job sites. They see the advertisements. I don't know how many people you are aware of LinkedIn, and LinkedIn is a very good resource you can use. LinkedIn, basically you will find all the different professors, all the industry people, lot of professionals, and sometimes they post that I have a postdoc opening, and I need to hire such and such skills are required for my position, things like that. and also other job portals like hireatjobs.com, etc. So you can look at the advertisements, you can apply. And then the second step is contact individual faculty. As I mentioned, based on the funding, individual faculty who have different projects. Sometimes they need manpower to execute all these projects. And then basically you can send email and try to understand whether they have funding to hire a postdoc. And then research networks and collaborators. If you have done PhD, during the PhD, you have network with people, you have collaborated with the different faculties in US or many different places. They are the first step. You should ask them, do you have a research openings? Things like that. So that is very, very important during the PhD to develop these research networks and collaborators, targeting that after completing your PhD, you will go for postdocs. Then another very, very important thing is all should take care is like, take the advantage of conferences, workshops, seminars. When you are going to the conferences, workshops or seminars, make sure meet people there. Let's say you are going to a conference, you will have a lot of faculties from different universities, talk to them, the people who are working in your area, and build the network. This is the time to build your network, and basically a lot of people go to the conference, they enjoy there, but at the same time you have to strategically really plan what are the things I want to achieve in the conference. Go and talk to the faculties, send a request that I would like to meet for 15 minutes to seek your advice on career opportunities, things like that. These are very, very important. A lot of people really miss this trick because they go and meet with people of your same age and the friends of different university and spend the whole time there. But this is very, very important. And check with your advisor, other faculties in your department. So the very first step is you should talk to your advisor and other faculties in your department. Go and talk to, seek their advice. Again, most important thing is networking. Networking to your family, friends, your seniors from the lab. Through this, you can get the information on where to apply. And in general, after you find out the openings, then the application process generally vary depending on whether you're applying to advertised positions or individual faculty. So this process may vary. Let's say you are applying to a national lab in the US, you have to answer several questions. You have to upload several documents. For example, in advertised positions, you have to give a resume. You have to, maybe sometimes you have to give a references, addresses, so that they have to ask the recommendation letters, statement of purposes, academic qualification, etc. They will ask several things to upload. And when you are approaching the individual faculty, that time probably you don't need all these things. You have to just send a resume with a cover letter. But however, very, very important point is how you are writing a resume, how you are writing a cover letter to approach a faculty. That determines your chances. So for this process, what are the things needed? The very first thing is you should evaluate the program, the faculty. Let's say you are working on certain field. Let's say you are working on nanomaterials. So you need to find out who are the faculties, who are the universities, the faculties are working in this area. Need to find out the programs. You need to develop a prioritized list of faculty or institute in your research area to find out your possibility. Again, once you do that, and timeline, a lot of people ask me about when should I apply for postdoc, when should I start thinking about the postdoc. To be honest, timeline is you can apply anytime around the year. There is no timeline, just like when you go for PhD, there is a specific timeline, like fall semester and spring semester admission happens. For postdoc, there is no such timeline. You can apply anytime. Test, you don't have to take any tests such as GRE and TOEFL in the US, but for PhD, yes, you have to take GRE, TOEFL, and other things you have to do. And some of the most critical things, your resume, application statement of intent or essay, SOPs, and letters of recommendations. These are the very, very critical items in your application process. And depending on the situation, sometimes people take interview, faculty can take interview, ask for additional research proposal, things like that. So these are some of the important components. It takes time to prepare. You have to prepare very well. so that there should not be any mistake, because people from there figure out your writing skill and trying to find out whether you are a good candidate, whether you give attention to details. Again, note that have application statement as a critic by a faculty advisor. Ask your advisor, ask your other faculty members for guidance how to write. Even look into proofread by many people to make sure that absolutely you have a correct, good resume, good letters of recommendation, many things like that. So after you understand this, then what are the factors to consider while evaluating where to go? As I mentioned here, choosing the faculty is very, very important to whom you are going to do your postdoctoral research. And this is the most critical step. That means you need to do a good, high quality research to understand about his research group. Let's say you are trying to, this is the targeted faculty. You should go to his website, try to read his papers, understand how many people are working in his group, what are the different research areas who are working. And you should not just pick up a faculty based on one research area, because in your postdoctoral research you need to expand your research. Although you may go to start working in the same area you are working, you should always look for options so that you can expand your areas, expand your research capability by involving in other projects. So that's where you should really go back and do a good research on how these faculty are working on different research areas, where his students are placed, how many PhD students are working with them, the things like that. That tells the reputation of a faculty. What are the research area and the program reputation? These are important. And check the productivity of the lab. So when you are going for a postdoc, you are with a certain aim. You are going, I want to publish more papers, I want to good papers, and get postdoctoral research from a good lab, so that when you apply, people will really consider, okay, he has come from a good lab, must have got a good training. Another thing is the cost of living. In the US, cost of living varies significantly from place to place. Let's say you are going to California, to Massachusetts, or New York. The cost of living is significantly high compared to the places I have stayed in Houston, Indiana, near to Urbana-Champaign. These places are not that high costly. So this is when you are going with a family, sometimes you have to think about it. Cost of living is also another very important factor, because there are a lot of things happens. You have to know, and postdoctoral salary is generally a little bit lower, and campus facilities and housing. So when you are going to a university, you have to find out whether the housing are nearby, so that you can walk to the department, or you have to stay away. In that sense, you have to look at the transportation and other things. And when you are new to US, it is very, very difficult to get the transportation, things like that. So you have to look into all these facilities. And geographic locations, as I mentioned, geographic location is another important factors from based on cost of living. And also, let's say in winter, sometimes some places are really cold. You may not be able to enjoy there. For example, in Chicago, in Urbana-Champaign, or some other places in Boston, New York, these places are basically, you will get a lot of snow. No, it will be severely cold. So, and let's say places I have stayed in Houston. Houston is very similar to Indian conditions. So you don't need to even wear jackets at some time. So you have to also think about this. But again, the very first thing is whether you are joining with the right faculty. Otherwise, you will be under tremendous pressure. And most importantly, because the faculty expect from a postdoc a significant amount of time. So, and their expectation from a postdoc is significantly high compared to a PhD. Then the question arises when to start the application. Okay. So basically, there is no fixed timeline for applications unlike PhD programs. So you can apply anytime. Start early, I can say, because I know, as I said, there are so many different documents required, and it takes time. At least 6 months before graduation, definitely at least 6 months before the graduation, when you know that you got the signal that you are going to get your PhD in next few months, 6 months or 8 months, you should definitely start by that time. And getting a position takes time. So you have to be, have patience, need to put a lot of effort in the process, and ready for the interviews, and have patience. And again, there will be definitely a lot of rejections. Accept the rejection gracefully, and it's a normal process. From every rejection, you learn how to modify, how to make a better applications. So it will be very, very helpful going forward. So some of the tips, these are the some of the breaking points. So let's say recommendation letter is one of the very, very critical document. If your advisor has recommended very, very strongly, this is the first thing people will see. Whether how, because generally the when someone recommends, he doesn't write false thing. Even when I write the recommendation letter, I will not write something is not uh, uh, correct. So people rely on the professors that at least I'll get a honest feedback. So request letters only from people who know you very well enough to write supportive letters. Who to ask? PhD advisor, co-advisor, professor in your field of study, previous or current employers, internship supervisors, and others. An important thing, allow letter writers ample time to write your effective letters. Do not rush your letter writer. And give your recommender copies of a resume, statement of purpose, any other relevant work product that will help them to write a good recommendation letter. And sometimes people should ask whether I should take the recommendation from a star faculty, or whether I should take from a faculty who can write better for me. Again, these are the questions you need to understand. It is better to get a good recommendation letter rather than from a star researcher with a normal not a so supportive recommendation letters. And tips on writing personal statements. So what are the most compelling reasons you can give for the faculty to be interested in you? And that's why very, very critical when you are writing email. What are the reasons you are giving? What are your career goals, long-term goals? All these things are very, very, very critical. From your writing itself, the faculty will figure out how your writing skill itself. So, many times from India, people who write emails casually, they do a lot of mistakes, spelling mistake, sentence mistake. Please try to write a good email, and even it is, make it correct. Very, very important. Don't take it casually. It is as important as your resume and other things. So here, this is my practice. All these are theory thing. Now I will share my postdoc application experience. Actually, when I started it, once I got the indication that I'll graduate in next 6 months, I discussed with my advisor about the options, what are the career options, got references and contacts. But before that, I had answered some of my questions. What are my career plan? I think that's what is very, very critical thing. Here, I had aim for going to industrial R&D positions. That was my aim when I was completing my PhD. So I discussed with my advisor about the options and also asked for his references. What are the contacts I should contact? So he got a lot of contact information from him. Then after that, I applied to several industries. I was interviewed at Intel, ABCS, ExxonMobil, Corning. So again, I can say you Intel interview. I went to 2 of these in the final round. Intel was through one of my friend who was working in Intel. Again, that says the networking is very important. Then I applied several to advertisements through friends and contacts by PhD advisor. So this is what I had. So, but however, within 6 months of my that, I did not get into Intel or MECS. So slightly I changed my plan that probably I should immediately look for postdoc positions. Then I will apply for industrial R&D positions again. So my postdoc applications was like this. So I had applied to MIT. The way I had applied, one of my 2 years senior to me in my lab, and another Indian friend who was doing postdoc in the same lab, Professor Jensen Calvert's lab. So through him, he forwarded my resume to him, and he got interested, and he took my interview. Finally, he decided not to hire me, and then Harvard University I had applied, and that is the one I got when I attended a conference. I posted my resume and also cover letter that I'm looking for postdoctoral positions. One gentleman from Harvard University, professor, they were establishing a new nanotechnology center. So my PhD was on nanomaterials, so he was quite interested, and then immediately sent an email, and we met for 30 minutes and discussed. And then, however, that didn't work out. In the because he was expecting a funding from my company. Then after that, after I went back to my universities, we interacted, and then applied a Harvard University fellowship through him, but through a proposal, but that didn't work out. But eventually, he got the funding and immediately hired me, offered me the position. And then I had applied to National Energy Technology Laboratory. This was a national lab. They had shortlisted me for my first round, and second round they had asked for something, but I was not very interested in that area. And then I had applied to University of Illinois Urbana-Champaign through advertisement. The position I accepted. So I had got offers from Harvard University US. I declined due to the similar research because I wanted to expand my research area, as well as also I was looking for a position where I can go to industrial R&D positions. So basically I accepted University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign because it was more related to industrial relevant area and different research domain compared to my PhD. So I wanted to expand my research area. And again, I figure out later on that why they were University of Illinois was so interested, because one of the postdoc was working in our lab, was working with them a few years ago. So they are pretty happy, and they know my advisor very well. So that's why they are very strongly inclined to hire me. Some practical tips from my experience are basically make sure your resume is perfect without any errors, properly formatted, need to be properly clean. Many times by looking at your resume itself, one can figure it out how much effort you have put. Keep it short. Sometimes people write 10 pages of whatever things you have done, it's not required. Faculty do not see all this. They do not have time. They'll spend at least 30 seconds or so, quickly look at your one page and decide whether to call this guy or not. And approach by email. Write a compelling and customized email expressing your enthusiasm. When you're writing the email, you have to be very, very careful and attach your PDF. Sometimes people write a long one-page email. People do not have that much of time to read. You need to really understand that. Sometimes people don't think that way. And do proper research before writing to the faculty. Do a research means look into his research area. What are the recent papers? Even read the research papers. Try to know, if you know someone in his lab, try to talk to them how the research is done. Then you try to also figure out why you want to join his group. So while writing the email, you should give a compelling reasons how you are able to how you are going to help him in his research, how you can take the research to the next level, or you can add a value by doing a different research. So basically, I'm saying combined approach is required in this case. And so before deciding to talk this one, yesterday I talked to my faculty friends here and our department, those who have come from US, Professor Vamsi Bhattal-Gunduru from PhD from Texas A&M, and Professor Tabiz Nawaz from University of Massachusetts. I talked to them also, how did they got the postdoc? So, Professor Vamsi got through, again, he got through connection of his PhD advisor. Previous lab mates were working at that center for energy research, and that's where he did his postdoc. And Professor Tabiz, he applied to an advertisement at the Clean Energy Research Center at Texas, and that's how he got. So you can see a range. So you have to take a multiple approach is necessary. Networking is also most critical. But however, if there are advertisements, you should keep your materials ready so that you can apply. So then now you got a postdoc position, how to prepare during the postdoc position. As I mentioned in the past few slides, you should have a certain goal. In the next few years, what I am going to do. That should decide, and based on that, you should plan your postdoc career. And postdoc tenure is generally, as I mentioned, 1 to 5 years. And sometimes I have seen people go for more than 5-6 years. I do not advise to go for postdoc even more than 3 years, and that start degrading your profile. If you want to go to industry, I think within 1-2 years you should go to industry. If you are going for faculty position, 3 years is optimal. You should not go beyond that. And again, it takes time, so you should start early. You can start preparing from 1.5 years, start applying, so that you will be experienced about what is needed. Then goal should build your CV and resume and research plan. During this postdoc period, you should focus on how you can publish more. What are the different grants, how grants is written, even should help your advisor to write grants, so that in a faculty position, you will be, you have to write grants to build your lab. You should try to attend the meetings, conferences, so that you can go to, build your network. Then again, you should plan for your faculty or industrial jobs, so that you go to different conferences. In the conferences, you should talk to people from different industries, managers, directors from different companies, set up a time, talk to them, get all these details. After that, once you come back, send a thank you note, as well as, send a LinkedIn connection and build a network. National and international conferences, workshops, these are very, very important. You should always go with a target. When you are attending a conference, poster and platform presentation, you should always take the opportunity to present. Presentation will help, because you have to do many presentation. If you are going to industry job, you have to present. You are going to a postdoc, you have to present. So always take the opportunity for presentation, build your presentation skill and build your network. Very, very important is build your network, make connections. Okay, I think I talked enough about postdocs. Now I'll talk about industrial R&D positions in the US. I'm sorry, I don't know about how things happen in India here, but the way to find out the positions relevant to your skills. So you have to see what are the skills you have. You have to, while searching for jobs, you need to match the positions to your skills, to your experience, things like that. And some of the best resources are search Indeed.com. Indeed.com is one of the website, job website, which aggregate from jobs from all the different job portals. Again, LinkedIn, lot of industrial people, lot of managers, R&D directors, and top people are LinkedIn. They sometimes post the jobs there, that we are looking for a PhD chemical engineer, PhD chemistry, PhD electrical engineer. So all these, all different skills requirement, and other job portals and staffing agency and recruiters. There will be in US, and there are a lot of staffing agency, recruiters, or headhunters. Sometimes the other name is called headhunters. So basically, they work with the companies. So the companies give their requirements to the staffing agency. Then the staffing agency people, the recruiters, then I try to search in the web or in LinkedIn or many different places to find out the suitable candidates, and then they connect with the companies. And if the student or the person is hired, they get some benefit. They have their contracts. So these are different avenues how you can explore to find the positions, then apply. And career fair in universities. Let's say you are a postdoc in a universities. Every year there will be career fair. I have seen in all good universities in the US, all the big companies, small companies, lot of people come in the career fair. That time they do some preliminary interviews, and they shortlist the resumes and do preliminary interviews. And if you are successful, they will call for on-site interview. Again, networking, personal contacts, family, friends, alumni of your college. So always LinkedIn is a very, very important place. Or from your university, try to find out who are the alumni of my college. You can directly contact them through LinkedIn or through email. Again, the way you are writing your email, the way you are making the things are very, very, very important. Okay. And always alumni are very, very important resources. They will, when you tell that I'm from IIT Bombay, they will have a soft corner always for IIT Bombay, so that works great. Many times I have seen that has been very, very helpful for me. And some of times, when you see advertisement in US, many times jobs will be advertised, but they do not exist in reality. That is another important thing. When you apply for industrial jobs and other jobs, sometimes they do not exist in reality, because you will see this job keep on coming again and again. You are applying, but still do not get response. It is because sometimes they through their internal connection, or through they have already figured out who is the candidate they are going to hire, and they hire them, and later on they post it. And this is to comply with the law. they have to post the job in the website for 2 to 3 weeks and collect the resume, and even will do the preliminary interviews for records. So you should not be disheartened if you do not get any response. That's very, very important. So what industry job looks for? So generally when you apply for industry or industrial positions, what they look for in a candidate, whether the candidate has the right skills and training. They are hiring for a particular positions. Let's say, for example, someone is a material characterization, analytical techniques. So they will look at, we need a candidate who can do HRD, SEM, TEM, whatever different skills they are looking for material characterization. So they will see that whether this candidate has the skills, some of the transferable skills. And if you have done SEM or XRD for one, you can do for any material. These are some of the transferable skills. For example, if you have done some modeling, rigorous modeling, if you they're looking for a modeling people, definitely your skills are matching. And then what is the educational background and from which institute the candidate graduated from? These are sometimes play some small role. Let's say they are looking for PhD chemical engineer. Although you are a PhD in chemistry and you have done all the work, your research skills are matching, sometimes they hesitate to take. Because sometimes in the real world, they need some engineering skill, although you have all these backgrounds for research components to your credit. Then whether the candidate is coachable, can work well in the team. And most importantly, people will look at whether these candidates understand how the things works, whether this candidate can be fit into my group. When the manager look at whether this candidate is really friendly, whether he can do a good job with my team, whether he can gel with my team. This is very, very important. And do you need, and then again, another important thing they consider, do you need sponsorship? And visa is one of the very important, visa or green card. These are the important things for international people when they go to US. Again, I'm covering a lot of informations. You may be confused. If you need any more details about something, you can always reach out to me to know more about it. Let's say look into the application steps in industrial R&D positions. So the first step is basically once you figure out, apply for suitable position matching skills and experience. And mostly you need resume. You don't need as elaboratively as for postdoctoral positions or faculty positions. Mostly at the very first step, you need a resume and need to be customized based on the position. You cannot take one resume and send to all the different places. This is, I will strictly say, a lot of people do that. I will not advise to do that because you need to really customize what is this position requires, what are the skills you need for that position. If it's not really matching, do not waste your time doing that. Rather, you try to apply for positions, the skills you are matching. And most importantly, your resume will be definitely different from where to when you are applying for postdoc. Industrial resume has to be small and you need to customize. It has to be written differently. And I have seen many people do mistakes of sending 5 pages of resume to industrial position. That's not at all necessary. And again, I am saying you here, the hiring manager only hardly look at 10 to 15 seconds of your resume. That means you need to figure out what you should write so that you will look into in 10 to 15 seconds or 30 seconds, the important aspects of your resume. Then after you apply the position, let's say lot of people apply, then the second step is basically HR interview after shortlisting. The HR will, once they shortlist, then HR will call you and take a 30 minutes to 1 hour interview. HR will ask a lot of questions. Do you need visa? Why you are interested in this position? What do you know about our company? Why you are interested? Why you are fit for this job? Lot of HR related questions, to understand your motivation, understand your perspective, and from that they will understand your personality as well. So after that, then it goes to the hiring manager. So HR will go and talk to the hiring manager about your initial interview. If they are very happy, then the HR will set an interview with the hiring manager. And this is generally for 45 minutes to 1 hour. It's a very, very technical interview related to that position. All these basically are telephonic. These 2 rounds are telephonic. So after the hiring manager is very happy, or he knows that this candidate is suitable for my position, you have a good chance now, then they will invite for on-site interview at the company site. and the on-site interview basically for completely one full day. And they are approximately 1 hour technical presentation, just like your PhD presentation. You have to find out again how to choose your technical presentation is very important. You have to customize, you have to choose a topic that is going to really impress them, that will really help in that position. In that way, they will also grill you for 1 hour to understand how much details uh, uh, you have to do. Okay, then approximately after 1 hour technical interview, question and answer, mostly then one-to-one interview with all the team members. So basically this one-to-one interview also varies from 30 to 45 minutes. And in the technical presentation, basically, so in this one-to-one interview, basically all the people generally attend the technical interviews. They, they can ask any questions. They can ask your past experiences. So basically this is very, very important. Whatever you write in your resume, be prepared to know each and every details. They can ask each and every line. They can ask you anything. They can give you a random problem. Okay, how you are going to solve it, or things like that. So generally it goes to complete one day, and finally will be interview with the HR. So in my cases, I have seen in my experience, even I have from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. my whole interview. Basically, so it can know the HR will take to different people based on the scheduled time. So this is a completely one day, full day interview. So you'll be exhausted. So you have to be really prepared. Then decision after the interview, basically, sorry. So after then, the hiring managers will call you once a decision is made. It's generally in 2 to 3 weeks. And to be honest, if they are in really need, they're looking for people, you may get within few days, even couple of days, the decision. For example, the last position I was working at Sabik Industries, the day I came, I reached around 12 a.m. in my home. Next morning, I was going to, driving to my work. And then I received a call from the hiring manager. Hey, we are offering the position and need to talk to you. So this like that changes, depends on one day to even 3 weeks. And if you're not getting after 3 weeks, basically you should assume that you're not going to get that position. Okay. Oh, yeah. So then now I'll give some practical tips from experience. A lot of people do not understand this. It's because of my so much experience. I applied maybe hundreds of applications. I understood finally that companies use application tracking system to shortlist candidates. Okay. So for one position, sometimes hundreds, 150s, 200 people apply. They do not have that much of manpower. One HR cannot look physically all the applications. So they develop use a software called application tracking system to shortlist the candidates. So for sending this, you need to send a doc file compared to PDF file. This is very, very important and thing I learned. A lot of people do mistake by just sending the PDF file. HR select the shortlist candidates and call for interview. And here, very critical thing, if you know a person insider, your resume will be directly reach the HR. So you do not come in the shortlist candidates. So it will bypass this tracking system. Again, they will give the job description. These are not precise at all. They mention overall. That's why if you know a person who is working in that similar role in the company, then you will definitely get a lot of inside information on what kind of research work they are doing, what kind of positions they are looking for. So all these will help in preparing yourself for various interviews and on-site interviews as well. And then again, follow up with the hiring manager, FR. If you don't hear from them, always follow up to make sure either you got it or you did not get it. Otherwise, it will build unnecessary pressure. And always write a thank you letter after the interview, and also describe how you will suitable for this position. A lot of people, these are the small things that will really make different from other candidates. Always write a very solid thank you letter immediately after coming back from on-site interview, and also describe, again restate how your skills and experiences are transferable, how you can help out, will be very suitable candidate. Again, this is another tip. Networking is the most important thing, most powerful technique for getting a job in industry. You should talk to all your friends, family, whoever knows, who can get. And if you know a person working in that company group, always good chance that your resume can reach to the right person, the hiring manager. So if your friend is working, he can directly pass to the hiring manager. And again, you are always on the forefront because you have gone through a reference. Then after talking to that insider, request him to pass the resume to hiring manager. So this is very, very important thing. Now I'll discuss about my experience in industrial R&D. How it is different from academics. So industrial research is different from academic research, very, very significant, very, very different way. So your training requirement is different in industrial research compared to your academics. Lot of times we did PhDs, all these things in based on my experience, I can tell you when I landed in industry, I realized that the training I have got is not relevant. Although I understand how the research is done, how to solve a problem, but some of the research you have done is not at all relevant to industry. That is the reason why I am telling you should really understand what are my career plans, what I should do, so you can intentionally motivate your research. You can intentionally plan your research so that you can bring all these components so that at the right time you can use these skills and deals with large scale and interest whether your work brings revenue to company. So company don't do a lot of fundamental research. They will look at whether your work, your research will bring revenue to the company. At the end of the year, they will see how much, how the projects you are doing will bring revenue. And industry is a very fast-paced environment, okay? And projects can be changed suddenly. I have seen in my experience, very fast-paced environment, things can change suddenly. And I have worked on projects that has been changed suddenly because based on the customer requirements. So be prepared that sometimes it's a lot of difficulty because you are already working for several months, sometimes change suddenly and again manager will come. Now you have to focus on certain things. Accountability, you will be accountable for your projects and outcomes. Industrial, not only industry, in the US, you will go for a postdoc position, you go for industrial R&D position, you will be held accountable. And this is the things difference in the US. You have to take full responsibility for your project's outcome. You have to explain. You cannot get take excuse. That's why that country is really, if you are working hard, there are plenty of opportunities. And again, in industry, be prepared for losing jobs also. Jobs are at will basis. The company can fire you at any time. You also can fire the company anytime. You can go to any job at any time. Okay. So I have come across this. Lot of people, some of my friends have lost jobs during the process. At the same time, also the company can change the, even the big people who will going to tell all these things also, they change the jobs immediately. So these are kind of little bit volatile. I have seen couple of my colleagues who has lost job 3 to 4 times also. Okay. So how to improve your chances? Again, be a good fit to the position if possible. Write a good application. Tailor your application for each position. Contact your prospective advisor, manager with sensible questions. Use your network of existing collaborator contacts. Try to find out if they are offering positions and increase your profile by presenting at useful conferences and get papers submitted. Again, very, very important thing here. I will tell, if you're working for your PhD, submit your papers, publish as many as possible. And when you are going for a postdoc position, the faculty expect you to write publications, expect you to advise PhDs, master students there, and also independently execute the projects. And if you do not improve your writing skill, if you cannot write the papers, you'll be under tremendous pressure. I have seen people from China and India come for postdoc. They cannot handle the pressure. I have seen in my lab actually some couple of people come from Japan, China, they could not survive because you have to write. And I have seen some of my friends experience. They have told people have come from PhD from IITs, from ISC. No, faculties throw their article, their draft. That's what I'm trying to emphasize. Write your own papers. Get the faculty check. Don't expect your faculty to write your papers. I understand this is a rigorous process, but however, at the end of the day, it will be very, very important, very, very fruitful. You'll feel very happy because going forward in any position, you have to write your how you write email, how you write a letter, how you write things. These are very, very critical. So now, finally, to the last slide, I think the challenges faced by students and family in US, and the most important thing is the visa sponsorship. A lot of people are under continuous stress until you get your green card. So when you go for a postdoc, you basically get a J1 visa, and I don't know, family probably go to J2 visa, and in J2 visa, your family cannot work. So you need until you get your green card. Once you get your green card, you can get your family, your wife, your spouse can work. So this is a visa sponsorship. Visa sponsorship, another important thing. If you want to go to industry, you need H1B visa. You need to the industry position need to they should be willing to sponsor the visa. So these are the very, very important things. This is another big chapter. I can spend another 40 minutes to talk how to get into the visa and green card, things like that. This is very, very important thing. And then cultural shock, I mean, and community. As long, if you go to the US, immediately you'll realize how the culture is different from India. Very fast thing you realize if you are going from Bombay, you'll see that, hey, I don't see any people. This is was my first reaction when I landed in St. Louis for my PhD. One of the postdoc was picking me up from the airport. Then when I reached, I told me, hey, I don't see people here around here. I see a lot of cars here. Then he said, Manojan, you came from Bombay, from India, and this is the normal thing. I asked him whether there is something going on, people are inside. Well, no, this is the usual thing. So you'll get a shock culturally, and also in another thing in US. Here you are going to a friend's house without any invitation. That's fine. I can go and knock my friend's door. But there, you do not do that. Basically, there will be different approach. You call and talk and see whether I can come. Set a time and all this. And then, so lot of things, and let's say go to, but there you have to treat everyone with respect. This is one of the very, very important things. I have worked in the industry. Irrespective of whether you are a CEO, you are a director, you are a manager, you are a scientist, whatever, doesn't matter. Everybody treat everyone with respect. Even one a sweeper, he also calls CEO's name by name. I also call his name, he will call my name. Everybody treat with respect. So you have to be very, very careful when we go culture from India, understand that aspect. Sometimes you are working in a postdoc, as a postdoc, you are working with PhD, masters. You cannot treat different, hey, you do this, you do that. No, something like that. You have to be very, very careful. Even there, people, even when I was PhD, I was calling the faculty by their name. Hey, Dan, how are you doing? How, things like that. So even here, however, our culture here is very, very different. I know some of the faculty friends who I call the name, they don't mind. But here, if I call a senior faculty name, they will feel ashamed. So you have to be careful, kind of things, and learn about the places and awareness about the surroundings and community. So you have to be really aware about the surroundings because there are sometimes you are coming from a different country, there are cultural difference. Let's say you are kind of, uh, most of the time sometimes you stare at things, but that is not acceptable in US. Sometimes we think it is rude in US. So a lot of different things you have to understand, aware of the things slowly. So another important is food and transport, and then public transport is not good except in few cities like New York, Boston, things like that. So many times you need help. Generally, most people use their own cars. So you have to really find out, initially when you go to US, try to find out some Indian people, friends who can help you out to buy groceries and things like that. And food is very entirely different. So a lot of people you get salads and things like that. And when you go to buy a food, buy a coffee, they'll ask so many questions. What kind of coffee you need? How much sugar you need? No, at least another 6-7 questions to even to get a tea or coffee. So these are the difference actually. So and again, the culture is different. You have to build your network there, build friendship, talk to Indian people. There will be people to help you out. So these are some of the challenges. And yeah. So finally, summary: make a good decision to go for a postdoctoral research for whatever reasons that are sound beneficial to you. Application process is daunting, time consuming. I understand there's uncertainty about life and the future, and get a frank feedback on your career plans from your supervisors, mentors. Ask them, openly ask them. I hear, see, students do not interact openly with his faculty advisors, but this is the first thing you should do. You should express your ideas, plans, and get feedback. And simple steps of preparation can increase your chances of success. And networking is important. And good luck. So I know that recently we finished the PhD interview. You guys have come through a rigorous selection process, and you are graduating from a top class university in India. Everybody understand, IIT Bombay is one of the top notch universities in the world. In the US, if you tell that I'm come from IIT Bombay, people see differently. So I know you all have the ability, you have the capacity, you can do well wherever you go, and you have to have a proper plan. I'm very, very sure, I'm very, very confident our students from IIT Bombay are well trained. They can go to any part of the world and flourish. You go and see, people know how good they have done. So I'm faith in all of your abilities. You all can do it very well. And thank you so much. And if you have any questions, anything you want to know about US, any positions, anytime, you can write an email. Definitely you will get a response. And anytime in future you like to have a discussion, like a small group, I will be more than happy to share my experience, what are the things to take care. Still, some of my friends are working, many of my friends are working in industry and faculty positions there. So, I'll be very happy to guide and share so that, you can, get well trained, so that you know the steps, you know the systems, how to apply. So you'll be more successful. So thank you so much. And this brings to the end of my presentation. Thank you guys for
Thank you,
listening.
sir. We have a couple of questions. So would you like to take them now?
Sure. Can you give me 1 minute break at least?
Yeah, sure, sir. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Hi, everyone. Before Professor Sahu rejoins the discussion, I would like to make a short announcement. Our next panel discussion is in the post-PhD series. Is going to be conducted by Professor Karthik Sashi Athlu and Professor VSS Pravan Kumar Hari from Energy Sciences and Engineering Department, and Nagamani Jaya Vadila from MEMS on 15th July from 5 p.m. So we are hoping to see all of you in the other discussion.
Hello. Sorry, I'm back. Actually, I took a little longer time to present, probably. It seems like
It
that.
is all right, sir. So would you like to take the questions now?
Sure, definitely.
Thank you for joining the discussion, Professor Sahu. I mean, this is the first time we are having someone from industry background here, and everyone is a bit anxious about the opportunities in industry. And so far, we have been only dealing with the faculties who have been in academia. So
Okay.
we have a lot of questions. So we will be
Sure.
selecting 3-4 questions for now, and rest we are will directly send to you via email. Is that
Sure.
fine?
Yes, absolutely fine.
Thank you. I'll just read them out. So I'll read them out to you so you can answer them.
Sure.
Just give me a minute. here. So, um, what are the some of the negotiation strategies to decide a postdoctoral topic?
So first of all, as I said, no, by the time you complete your PhD, you have some idea what are the some of the other research area I should explore. Okay, so let's say you are working on something, then okay, I should use work on this area so that it will enhance my resume, enhance my prospect, as well as my interest is in that area. So these are this is the thing you should understand based on what you are planning to do in long term. Then only based on that, okay, now let's say I'm working on nanomaterials, now I want to work on something battery materials, let's say material storage. Although my nanomaterials background is important, but again it is transferable, but I am looking at the battery storage material, energy storage materials. So things like that you have to find out yourself. You need to ask yourself and then talk to faculties where I can get this opportunity, things like that. I don't know whether
You have
that's it is up
So
to
that,
you. It's something you need to find out that. Okay.
hello. Sir, this is Deepak. I'm a PhD student at
Yeah,
Agri School of Design.
I think I'm done.
So just, so I have a follow-up question to this.
Yeah, so
For
this is very
example,
critical. You need to really decide. For example, let me tell you my practical experience. When I declined Harvard University, that is because number one reason was they are looking what person who knows about nanomaterials, and my PhD was on PhD nanomaterials. So I didn't want to just repeat that same thing again. Rather than I wanted to expand my research. That's the reason why I choose the other one. At the same time, the other position was project was more relevant to industrial R&D, and that was the aim at that time. So you need to really plan out. Things may change. You see, finally I decided to come back to academia because after working, I realized what are my long-term goals and things. Now that again, plans keep on changing. So yeah.
okay.
Yeah, please go ahead. Any other questions?
Deepak, would you like to ask any more question? Otherwise, I can go ahead and read the other questions.
Yeah, probably we could discuss offline and we could go ahead with other questions. Thank you so much.
All right. So the next question is, how many publications are required for the application of industrial job?
Okay. To be honest, for industry job, you do not need any publications. But again, if you have published, it will shows your credentials. Okay. Very, very important. Let's say published research means you know how to approach a problem, how to solve, how to take things to the end, how to interpret the results. Okay. This is very, very critical. So even if you go for postdoc, even if you go for industry, doesn't matter. You should publish because that shows credentials. Okay. And very importantly, I understand industry doesn't care about how many publications, to be honest, but they will look at whether the skills you have acquired. Sometimes the engineering skills are engineering research if you have done is not publishable. But then have you seen, let's say, have you done modeling? What kind of modeling? Have you done some statistical analysis? Have you done something process modeling? Let's say I'm a chemical engineer. Basically, have I done process modeling? Have I done some statistical analysis, design of experiments? So these are the skills they look for. But at the same time, they look for whether if you have many publications. No, they say this guy is understand all these skills. He has all these skills, but he has good publication record. Always publication helps. And again, can tell you, whatever research work you are doing, you should publish. You should publish whether you go for industry, whether go for academia, go for postdoc. Okay. But again, doesn't matter. You do not need specific number of publication for a industry job. Still, if you have a one publication, you do not have one publication, still you can get a job in industry.
Okay, sir. So we have someone has raised his hand. So I am unmuting him so that he can
Sure,
ask his question directly to you.
sure.
So Vinish, if you could,
Yeah,
you can
sure.
proceed.
Yeah. Yeah, sir. The main question is what is the key difference between doing a postdoc in US and compared to Indian universities? Like, because one experience is I joined IIT for MTech and then converted to PhD. So compared to my BTech, the key difference was the type of the work culture and then like goal oriented work, and then I got more confidence, and then in terms of knowledge. Transfer of knowledge, I mean, there was not much difference. Like everything was already there when I was doing BTech, but then the way I work changed. So given that, like when we go for postdoc, what kind of major differences are there compared to other Indian universities?
Okay, so I can say the culture of research is the most significant difference. Okay, so the way we look at here, do the postdoc research is entirely different there. Actually, okay. So for example, I'll tell you in my research lab there are several people come here. They have not gone through that rigorous training. I'm telling you, a lot of people come, go from IIT. If you have not written research paper thoroughly and not published, you'll be under tremendous pressure. So because there, the faculties expect you to lead independent research. Okay, people will not tell you do this and do that. It is a problem. You need to figure it out. You design your experiment, build your experimental plan, and conduct research and so. People will not tell you, okay, go and do this, go and do that, go and do that. One is the research culture and the quality, and people will not accept the any, every lab will have a certain standard they maintain. I can tell you, when I was doing PhD, my first research paper took me, I don't know, 15 or 16 iterations. Unless until it reach a certain standard, my advisor has not even will send for submit the paper. So every research lab will be different. Many of my friends have left without several papers unpublished. So one is you have to working culture will be very very different here. Okay, so many people there people work very systematically. Many people go in the morning and in the evening, and we do not, to be honest, in the US nobody works in Saturday Sunday. By Friday evening, everybody is, many PhDs, many postdocs, they will be in the sometimes in the you know in their home or maybe in the bar. So that's the usual thing. So it's about the culture of the work and how productive you are, because they expect you to be productive because they are busy. That's why they are hiring postdoc who can guide the PhD, masters, and then publish. Publishing is very important thing. So yeah, tell again, thing is that their system is very very open culture. You can openly discuss your postdoc advisor, things like that. Yeah, did I answer your question?
So we have more of people who want to ask their questions directly to you. So I am
Sure,
unmuting
sure, no problem, no problem.
Sharmila. So Sharmila, if you would like to ask.
Hello, am I audible, sir?
Yes,
Yes,
you're
yes.
audible.
So thank you, sir, for your insightful talk. My question is, sir, if we wish to land up in an industrial job, I guess it will be better to switch to a more application-based area for your postdoc. So how would one convince an advisor to be interested in you if you have worked in an entirely different field?
Yeah, this is very interesting thing. This is the reason why I tell people, you plan your research. Let's say you are going to industrial R&D positions. You are going to do the research, but you look into that way how you can develop some application related stuff, or what are the engineering skills you try to bring up. Let's say you are doing something, can you do some modeling, add some modeling aspect, some coding aspect, some statistical analysis you can do. So these are the things you can do that. No, your advisor is not going to stop you. And if you in the US, you come up with independent ideas, you talk to supervisor, hey, this is what we want to do. If it is application oriented, sometimes people will be very happy. Again, you have to bring up that idea. You can tune your plan, your research. You can always have that opportunity to discuss with your advisor. That is the reason why I'm saying, if you have a proper plan, okay, I'm going for a postdoc, but my plan is to go to industrial R&D. So I'll do my whatever job is assigned in the lab. Then I will think about what kind of application oriented things I can do here. What kind of things I can do, learn something more. How can I understand statistical analysis, modeling, or other things, what's beneficial for my skills that will be fitting to the research, industrial research. Okay, so that's the intentional way of planning your research is very, very critical, and this is the what we missed, I guess, in my PhD. Okay, because I was given the complete freedom. To be honest, we have done our PhD pretty much independently. Advisor will not know, they do not have that much of time. So you plan your research, talk to seniors and things like that. So if you come up with a good application ideas or something very good thing, I don't see anything, why your advisor will not be agreed. Okay.
So we are going to take one more question because we are running into time constraints. So after this question, we have got a list of questions addressed in the chat box. So those questions will forward it to you via mail.
Sure.
So Manas is here. So he'll ask the last question.
Yeah. Hi, Professor. Thank you very much. It's really very relevant talk for those who are actually at the boundary of the PhD. So I got enough information out of it. So I have a question. Basically, I am a collaborative PhD student between IITB and Monash University. You may know this IIT Monash Research PhD program. So
yes.
My question is here, while we are writing some professor as per our interest, so we should highlight, like, one part of which institute we are associated, that department where we got much benefited and much experience from our research, or it is better to mention both the departments. And second part of my question is, so while writing our research plan, so basically we should discuss whatever the work we have done, their experience, or we have to much emphasize on what are the future plan, and out of maybe it is an extended version of our the recent research, or like that. Could you please clarify these points?
Yeah. So so let me repeat the first question you said. So let's say you are associated with Monash or something. The work is done at Monash, or maybe work has done at IITB. Is it required to mention whether Monash department or IITB department? To be honest, is that the question?
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter. You don't have to mention that, because when you are writing a PhD from IIT and Monash University, that's enough.
Okay.
So basically, you need to tell what the research you have done. How, let's say you are applying for postdoc. So you need to highlight what are the research work you have done, how the research will complement the faculty research or bring a new dimension to his research, so that his lab will be also benefited from your research, as well as what are some of the thoughts, what are some of the things you are going to bring new to the lab. Kind of ideas, because these are the something I'll work on the proposed ideas already, projects going on, and these are some of the new ideas, new projects I am going to propose and bring to the new things. So you can always do that. Okay, but again, postdoc is pretty much, this is similar in a faculty position. You have to do that rigorously, but in postdoc position you don't have to do much like that. So you can write how is your research is very important and how is it relevant to his research group, and what are the few small things you can do in this lab.
Yeah.
No, but when you are applying for faculty position, this is the rigorous step. What are the research plan? You have to write a research plan. What are the few things you are going to do in next 5 to 10 years? So, okay. I hope you are. What was the second question?
Yeah, means I think you have already answered this. Basically, my query was, in the research plan, we have to discuss, or we have to much emphasize whatever the work we have done or what we are going to do in their lab.
Yes. So this is very important. That's what I'm saying. In one slide and mention, you have to do a thorough research on the faculty research. what his group has done, what are the recent paper published, what are different research area they are working. So in that way, you will get a complete idea, no, what kind of works he must be interested in. Now you have to look into your resume, your skills and experience, how this is really, fitting to his group. Or if let's say you have worked on nanomaterial or something, you have done something different applications, then you can bring that application to his lab. No, at the same time, you are also helping them in nanomaterials. Okay, so you have to see that. That's the reason why you need to have a good research about his research group, so that you can write a very nice email describing what the research group and what are the research skills you are going to bring to each group and things like that. Okay.
Yeah.
So we have to be very, very careful and very, very, nice way you have to craft your email.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you.
So thank you, sir. I'm sorry we cannot ask any more question today because we are operating under a time constraint, and we really have a lot of questions. So we are going to send the questions to you in a mail, and there's multiple requests for if you could share the slides.
Sure.
So could you? Okay. So thank you so much once again. So we'll be ending the presentation here. The next talk of the series is organized on 15th July. So we are hoping to see as many of you as possible in the talk. So thanking everyone. I would like to end the presentation here.
Okay.